Welcome to the PC Perspective Hardware Podcast. Tonight's episode is 298. Yes, we are 2 away from the magic number 300. I'm not entirely sure what happens other than some Spartans come in and we get decimated by Xerxes and the Persians.
So
but today is April
Xerxes
30th,
then?
2014. And I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Alan Malventano.
And I'm Maury Titleman.
Maury, what were you trying to say?
I'm saying if we do that whole the whole 300 thing, you're going to play Xerxes then?
I don't think any of us are nearly buff enough to play in 300.
Well, you got the bald head. That's what I was kind of going. We could like color your skin gold, and you can wear a big robe.
And order the girdle on Prime now. Things will work out.
It certainly could. So anyway, every week we do one of these damn things. And, of course, this week our boss is down in warmer climes, enjoying the kind attentions of the people at ARM. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but, I mean, they are low-powered, and they go onto a lot of low-end devices. Just go from there. Anyway, you can get a hold of us at podcast at pcper.com. You can find all of these lovely and entertaining shows at pcper.com/podcast. Sometimes there are really interesting pictures that Ken posts there of people on the podcast. Fine photography, Ken. Anyway, you can also follow Ryan Shrout at twitter.com/Ryan Shrout or twitter.com/PCPer. Maury, myself, and Jeremy all have Twitter accounts, as well as Ken. So if you want to find those, you got to look it up yourselves because, if we mention them on air, Ryan finds us a couple $100 because he wants all the attention. And you know what? He signs a check, so he gets it. But anyway, it's been a busy week. And not only that, but I believe that before we go into anything, I forgot one thing. What was that, Jeremy?
I don't know. Do you want to talk about the VLAN or the guy that we all hate?
Big fan.
Well, the VLAN, which actually now has a theme video, believe it or not.
Now what?
The gang at the PC Perspective Fragging Frogs are actually pretty excited about this. And if anyone showed up for the one that we already had this year, you know that there will be AMD reps. They will be giving away hardware. They will not be playing very well, so you will be able to shoot them pretty easily. It is a hell of a lot of fun. It will probably be going on all day. We've covered a lot of time zones. But it will be starting at 10 a.m. Eastern if you want to get up early and for whatever reason you're not going to watch the hockey. So there's quite a few different people joining up. There are a lot of games that are there. I would download Unreal Tournament 2004 now because it will be one of the biggest ones. But Battlefield 4 is also going to be in there as well. And we can all vote on it. If you head to the forums, the link is in the article and will be on the podcast notes as well. We've got lists of all the games, the latest patches that we're currently using so that you're going to be up to date. And most importantly, our TeamSpeak server, because we still use TeamSpeak. And if you want to win, you're going to have to be on TeamSpeak because that's where all the AMD giveaways are going to happen. So if you can, show up. You're going to have a lot of fun, and you may well walk out of there with a brand new full system, a giant video card, which only Bitcoin miners can afford, given to you for free. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there. Josh?
Bitcoin miners are making all that much money anymore. Somebody is, but
a good thing.
Not me.
Actually,
what I was talking
about. Dogecoin bought a car, so I mean, come on.
Well,
that's true.
Talking about Bitcoin miners, so there's an interesting trend going on right now. There is a huge amount of stock in retail of AMD cards because Bitcoin miners and Dogecoin miners and all of them aren't buying them anymore. So if you need a video card, now is the time to buy them because they're trying to get rid of them.
This is true. But anyway, that neither of these things are what I was talking about. Yes, you can join our spam list. If you are lonely at home and you want some company on odd nights of the week, like Wednesday, Thursday, perhaps Saturday, and other special occasions, you can join our spam list. And you can get personalized email messages lovingly crafted by Ryan and Ken and sent to you on the wings of angels to you in your inbox from PC Purse. So join our spam list. Feel the love and enjoy the individual attention that only two gingers can give.
All we need is your name, email, and a major credit card with the expiry date.
Yeah, and the security code in the back.
Well, we can figure that out.
And a blood sample and DNA trace.
Copy of your birth certificate would be nice.
Well, we have their blood and DNA. What do we need the birth
Hey,
certificate?
you know what? I am actually a Nigerian prince, and I just recently came into $15 million. But I need to move to the United States, and I need someone to handle at least $2 million of that to get me in here. And you can keep it. Got it? Join the spam list. See what'll get you.
And with your confidence, I will deposit.
I will deposit something.
We
and
don't
it may
take
not be
Bitcoins.
where you want it.
Screw it. I'll take your Bitcoins.
You know, we did have one nice little thing going on, and actually it was not a part of this, so it was not all that nice, but it was still nice enough to talk about. Yes, the April 15th Tax Day celebration began with a giveaway from the nice folks of EVGA, Hadron Air, and the GTX 750. Jeremy, who won this lovely combination of products?
Well, it sure wasn't me, and you know how much I stuffed that with fake IDs and addresses? And no, we have a winner. His name is Pierce H. We are, for security reasons, not going to tell you his full last name or address. You
Or
will,
social
again,
security
have to
number, or
subscribe
his
to our spam
security
list
code,
to find
or his
that out.
blood sample that he sent us, and all the other major forms of identification he had to submit to Ryan to be able to get this card. We hope you enjoy your case and your video card as Ryan empties your bank account.
And look forward to more contests coming up in the not-too-distant future.
Right. Anyway, you know what? It's been a busy week. When I even have an article or two out, you know it's a busy week. Bud Morey, who is our motherboard guy, he lovingly caresses these motherboards and at the same time whispers sweet nothings about their BIOS battery placement in their USB 3.0 port. What has Gigabyte coming down the road? Next generation. Let's not break any NDAs this time, shall we?
Yeah. So over the last couple of weeks, Ryan and myself went to a couple of manufacturer events about the next generation boards. Basically, we have intro articles to both the Gigabyte next generation boards and the ASUS next generation boards. We'll start with Gigabyte. Gigabyte basically is kind of is changing up the game from what they did with the Z87 line with their next generation line. They have 4 series now. They have the normal series, which is basically your standard channel series, which are the system builders and the mid-tier enthusiast grade boards. They have the gaming series, which are the high-end enthusiast gamer boards. They have the overclocking series, which are high-end enthusiast / record-breaking type boards, LN2 stuff, that kind of thing. And they have the Black Edition series. Now, Black Edition, what they did with these is they actually have a validation criteria with the Black Edition where they set up a 3,000-seat validation lab that they run Litecoin mining testing and GPU testing on these boards for 168 hours, which is, I think, a week, 2 weeks, something like that. But basically, the 168 hours was it has some special significance in China. That's why they picked that number. It's supposed to be lucky or something. I don't know. They didn't really explain it much, but if you wanted to look it up, you could probably figure it out. But basically, they set up this validation lab. So these Black Edition boards, they're able to put out 3,000 per week because boards will not be released to retail until they go through this 168-hour validation, and they only have 3,000 slots. Okay. So they're basically they're saying that the premium on these boards are going to be $10 to $20 over the non-Black Edition boards. So it's
including the money they made from Litecoin.
Well, no, they don't know what they're going to do with the Litecoin. They said that basically it's funny you bring that up, really, because they actually went into that. We all asked questions about that. They're basically, when you buy a Black Edition board, it's kind of like they're trying to do a ROG type branding with that. So when you buy the Black Edition board and you go to register with your warranty, you actually become a Black Edition member. And they may do giveaways. They say that they're going to use the Litecoin for something. They don't know if they're going to give it away to charity, split it up among the Black Edition members, use it to fund giveaways for Black Edition members, whatever. But Black Edition boards also have an extended warranty. They come with a full 5-year warranty. So not only do you get a board that you know will work under stress conditions, but you have an enhanced warranty. So it's a decent deal. But as usual, Gigabyte has somewhere between 30 and 40 SKUs spread across those 4 branding types. The normal series has the most SKUs, with the gaming series, overclocking series, and Black Edition series having maybe 3 to 4 SKUs each. They did do updates on all the board SKUs. They have the next generation chipset. They have next generation storage technology, which I can't say anything more than that. They updated the MOSFETs and caps on them. They updated the heat sinks. What else? They did a bunch of stuff. The coolest thing, if you want, go to what is that page? If you go, Ken, if you go to page 3,
someone's giving you the evil eye. Here's looking at you.
Yeah.
This
go to page 3 on the and then scroll down to the first the first picture in there. Yeah, see that? Okay. This is one of the cool things they did with the overclocking board. That's the back of the board. There's something missing there. Notice there's no memory traces.
Are the hieroglyphics there?
They top mounted the memory brackets similar to what they do to CPU sockets. They did that in order to make the memory signals cleaner and less prone to crosstalk and interference with other board components, because these boards are made for record breaking via LN2 and just getting insanely high overclocks. So they did a bunch of different tweaks on the various board lines to squarely aim them at the audiences they're targeted towards. And as you can see, the overclocking still keeps the orange and black branding. The Black Editions basically they have boards from the gaming series and they have boards from the normal series. But they actually, when they make them Black Edition, not only they change the name on them, but they actually change some of the onboard components. Right now they only change the heat sinks on them, but they're saying that there will be additional tweaks to them to that line in the future.
So what kind of audio are we looking at? Is it
I'm sorry?
nice?
What?
Is it do they got the line in between the audio portion and not?
Yeah, most of them actually have the separated audio PCB on them now. That's one thing both Gigabyte and ASUS are doing. They're on almost all lines of boards, even the channel boards. They're doing the separate audio PCB on them because people are that's one differentiating factor that people seem to care about no matter what kind of board they're buying, is they want the high fidelity audio. And with the SoC solutions and the high end audio chip solutions being there and being cheap, it's very doable and it's a differentiating factor. What Gigabyte did was they actually integrated a creative audio chip on board on the higher end boards, and they have creative software.
Here's something secret for you.
I'm sorry, it's a hardware software. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's not actually a creative chip, but it is a creative audio stack for software.
Well, no, the actual one of the boards actually has a creative chip on it. It's actually got the chip is made by Creative.
Lies.
That's what they're saying.
Okay, I'll believe you.
Well, I don't know. That's
Yeah,
what they're
rip off
saying.
that cover. I got to hear that. I got to see it. But anyway,
Heat sink
go
by
ahead.
Soundblaster.
Sound Blaster.
But what they're also doing is they're also using Japanese sourced audio capacitors, the type of audio capacitors you would normally find in your high-end sound system, in your home theater system. Not So I think they're Japanese Nishikon capacitors.
Nichicon, yes.
Yeah. So these boards are rocking some really high fidelity audio solutions, and some of the boards even have the removable op amps, like the G1 Sniper 5 did on the Z87 line. They really are trying to put their money where their mouth is. Let's see, anyone have anything else to chime in on before we move on to ASUS?
Personally, I have been testing the F2A88X, whatever, Sniper, G1 Sniper, and it has the separated audio. And really, it is honestly some of the cleanest audio I have heard from a motherboard-based setup. So, there's some FUD in there. There's some misleading type stuff, but overall, it is an upgrade from standard motherboard audio. But move along, dear friend Maury Titleman. Tell us what ASUS has in stock for us plebeians who can only afford Gigabyte.
ASUS has 30 plus SKUs of new boards coming out. With ASUS, though, you're seeing the same lines, and it's less of a revolutionary change as compared to Gigabyte. It's more of an evolutionary change of their existing lines. They have the Channel series, which is your mid-tier enthusiast system builder. You have the Republic of Gamers series. You have the Tough series and the Workstation series. With all boards, they are introducing something called 5-way optimization. Basically, it's the same. The previous Z87 generation had 4-way optimization, which included was a TPU, which is an online overclocking and monitoring chipset, EPU, which is an energy efficient chipset, Fan Expert, and missing one. What was the other one? Sorry.
Overclocking tool?
Dingleberry.
No, not Dingleberry. Oh, I'm sorry. DigiPower Control was the fourth, and DigiPower is just basically your power system, MOSFETs, VRMs, blah blah blah. With 5-way optimization, what they added in was a turbo app, which basically is BIOS. They've always included a Windows-based overclocking in their applications, but it's never been part of their core chipset stuff. They've actually integrated it into their core chipset stuff now, so they actually have overclocking capabilities into their in their core suite, and that's why it's 5-way optimization now. With the channel line of boards, they've updated the aesthetics on them to actually make them a little more pleasing. Last generation Z87 line of ASUS board, they had the gaudy gold and the black. They were kind of weird looking. This time, the gold is actually gold chrome. You can kind of see from the picture. It's a more muted gold, and it's a little more eye pleasing. They use matte black, and they have the really cool round heatsink. The only thing with that you're not. I'm sorry.
I thought it was
a volume
speaker.
knob.
No, it looks like a volume knob. Yeah, I wish it glowed though. That would be the really cool
Does it
thing.
have
But they didn't
dust
put that
guard?
glowing LEDs.
Dust
in there.
guard. Does it have dust guard?
No, that's in tough.
Will they throw?
We'll get to that, Josh.
Damn it.
We'll get to that. Don't
No,
worry.
I thought that was ECS.
Well, the ECS started, but they actually have a dust guard thing. They actually did something really neat.
Okay.
With the channel board, also, if you flash back to that picture of the board there, Ken, you were shown before. You can see that they actually included the audio PCB on there, and their audio solution now they call Crystal Sound 2, and similar to Gigabyte, they're using high-end audio capacitors in there. It's separated PCB. They don't have a removable op amp, but they do have something. Oh, I don't remember what the name of it is, but it basically, when you plug in a headphone to the front jack, it will actually auto detect the impedance level of your
So
headphones,
it'll increase
and
the
it
gain
auto-adjusts.
automatically.
Sexy.
Yeah,
Increase
sure,
gain to handle higher impedance headphones.
Yeah.
The second that you
That's
plug
nice.
yourself in.
it's going to be a big port.
But yeah, so that's the channel series. The ROG series have some nice additions too. They let's see, they added a new board called the Ranger that sits in between the Hero and what is it? The Ranger sits in between Hero and the Gene, I guess. But you can see the Ranger there. They added something they're calling dual coloration to the PCB, where they actually outlined around the heat sinks
Traces?
in red to make them pop, and they also added underlighting to the chipset cooler to make that stand out a little bit. It's got the same coloration. No, it's black and red as you've come to expect from ROG. They have a lot of nice other features as well that some of them we cannot go into right now, unfortunately. Next generation storage, all that stuff. The Tough line. The Tough line, they did something interesting with here. Normally, Tough series motherboards, you have the Sabertooth board and you have the Griffin board, which the Griffin board is going to be your mini ATX board, right? What they did this time was they actually have a Mark I version and a Mark II version of the Sabertooth. The Mark II version is naked. It does not come with the armor. Mark I comes with the armor that you've come to expect. So what you're seeing here is Mark I. Mark II is basically the same board, but without the armor.
So if you ask this one nicely, it'll strip for you?
You can take it off if you want.
Take off your armor.
But yeah, see, that's the Mark II right there, and that's without the armor. All of the ASUS boards have 10K caps. With the Tough, is it with the Tough series they did? No, sorry. The Tough series has 10K caps also. It's the Workstation series is the one with the different caps. What they did with the Tough series though is into the armor itself they actually added sliders that you can actually change the airflow dynamics of the armor itself, and they have two fans in there. They have one over where the PLX chip would normally be, and they have one in the rear panel. Okay. And see those switches there. You can see them. That's a close-up of the switches. What they also did was they added functionality into the monitoring software that will actually allow you to run the fans backwards. So it will actually blow dust. Well, the fans. When I'm saying fans, the armor fans, you can actually blow dust out of the armor as opposed to sucking it in. So that's where we were talking about the ECS dust guard thing, Josh.
I see.
And they call that thermal radar 2. It's basically the update of their thermal radar. They also are saying that all boards go through a rigorous validation process, 7,000 plus hours of validation against 1,000 plus devices. And they're saying 7,000 plus hours is approximately 2 months worth of testing on those boards. So, they're really ramping up their stuff. They also
That's a lot of
control.
Litecoins.
I'm sorry?
That's a lot of Litecoins from them, too.
Yes, that's a lot of Litecoins. They also have ESD protection on all USB ports that will auto reset if there is an ESD issue encountered. But okay, the last series is the Workstation series. The Workstation series right now is a single board. It's the Z97-WS. This is the only board also that has a PLX chip. All the other boards do not have a PLX chip. So this is the only board that will actually support up to 4-way video cards. The other ones will not.
That's
They
a
only
really
do
nice
SLI.
number listed underneath.
This is a very nice looking motherboard.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the number by the Z and in between the WS.
Oh, okay. Well, no, you can say that. That's Z97. We're allowed. Yeah, you can say that the name of the board. We just can't reference the chipset. With this board, what they did was they have, instead of the 10K rated caps. They actually have 12K rated caps and they rated to operate at 105C. So this has enhanced caps on it. It has, let's see what else. They also changed up their Dr. Power implementation. Dr. Power actually contains an analog to digital signal converter that has a tolerance of 4 microsecond response time. So
Dr. Power, is it comprised of 23 individual electrical components?
That I don't know.
Come on.
Swing and a miss.
Sorry. It's got dual Intel Gigabyte Ethernet. It also has Thunderbolt 2. And it's got a 4-digit diagnostic LED, not just the 2-digit. So you can get better boot initialization diagnostic strings if you want. But that
almost sounds
really
like a high-end
ASUS,
gaming board than a workstation, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, it is for gaming, but I mean, what they're calling it workstation because they're gearing it towards high-end graphics professionals that need the graphics horsepower, like the type of people that are rendering, Pixar or Disney animation that may want 4 Titans in a board or 3 Titans in a board to render stuff with, or something like that, or game developers. So, I mean, I think that's the thoughts behind it, at least, But at this point, from ASUS, this is the only board that has the integrated PLX chip. It's a little different on the Gigabyte side. There are a couple SKUs that have PLX chips integrated into it. But for ASUS, this is the only one. I'm sure there'll be a ROG branded one in the future sometime, but not for launch. So the only other thing with them that ASUS did was all fan headers on ASUS boards are rated to handle up to 1 amp of power, which is quite a bit. It's a really nice enhancement they did. So
somebody asked this, not to steal Sebastian Peake's joke, but does the Mini ITX have Diet Dr. Power?
Oh, you failed.
Diet Dr. Power.
Couldn't even deliver the joke.
Thanks, Sebastian. It could have been funny, but I screwed it up. Right.
Moving on.
Let us. Oh, are you done?
I'm done.
Well, let's see what we have to look at next. I hope it's not me.
Well, here's Josh.
AMD unveils Beema and Mullins. It's not just, sounding like a terrible 70s cop buddy show. Hey, Detective Beema. No, you're not feeling it?
Beema, he's got a Mullins.
Okay, let me change my background to orange. And now, do you feel it? God damn it. Anyway, AMD, they released more stuff. It's kind of been the first half of, maybe first quarter of the year for AMD. They've released a lot of things. We've got Kaveri. We've got, the HD 265. Got that dual monster that Ken got to fondle. Ken, you like fondling dual monsters?
One in each hand.
Nobody's working with me. This job sucks. Anyway.
Don't answer that, Ken.
Right.
Ken is outside of his trust zone.
Maury just made a joke. It was good, too. Anyhow, Beema and Mullins. It's been kind of interesting. Kabini has been something we've been talking about not only all year, but the past month. A ton. It powers the AM1 socket. It was a low-power, quad-core APU with a decent graphics unit popped on there. And it could play games. It could do things very well. And we saw that again with the AM1. It was a 25-watt product. Ran at 2 gigahertz of CPU core and 600 megahertz of GPU. And it was a neat product. Ken did lots of testing with it. I did some testing with it. Brian did testing with it. It was very exciting. But we then were told about, we're going to be releasing Beema and Mullins. And At first, there was not a whole lot of excitement about it because we remembered a few years ago when Brazos 2.0 came out, and it really didn't improve a whole lot. They had like an extra 100 megahertz of speed on the dual core, a little bit faster graphics, a couple of ticks down in TDP, and we just thought, wow, all of this hype and pomp and circumstance about Brazos 2.0, and it really was disappointing. I mean, it was a step forward, but it wasn't a very large one. And I was kind of expecting to go into this with such a thing. That here is Beema Mullins. It's a slightly redone Kabini and Tmosh. So we can expect a couple of 100 megahertz of increase in speed, and maybe we'll get some power savings. And it turned out that it was a bigger jump than anyone really expected. They implemented many new technologies. So on the what was once the 25 watt part with Kabini is now 15 watts. And at 15 watts, it runs around 2.0 to 2.4 gigahertz for the quad core. So you're knocking 10 watts TDP off of this chip and increasing the performance by a significant amount. The graphics portion, it goes from 600 megahertz to 800 megahertz max. Now, these clocks are maximum clocks because they implemented, kind of some speed steps, some turbo and boost functionality, but they have all kinds of software and microcode and low-level BIOS implementations that recognize a lot of applications for where they're going to do best at. So, hey, if we got something that's going to last 10 or 15 seconds in, of really heavy-duty CPU stuff, we're going to boost that and take that 10 seconds down to 7 seconds of actual time. So in the end, we're going to be saving battery. We're not increasing the heat of the product all that much because it's such a short time. And they have all kinds of little algorithms of what programs and workloads will really benefit from either boosting or keeping clocks lower. But I was just amazed that it went from 25 watts TDP for the top end part to 15, and you're actually increasing performance across the entire spectrum of programs, graphics, CPU, whatever, by that much. So the AMD engineers went through the design apparently with a fine-tooth comb. We don't know exactly who produces these new parts, though indications kind of point to Global Foundries doing it. Now, Global Foundries, even though we didn't get any actual confirmation from AMD, if you were to pick up one of the Kabini AM1 parts, it says right on the cover, diffused in Germany. So that means Global Foundries is actually making the chip, because in other products that we've seen from AMD, we've seen diffused in Taiwan, which is TSMC. So we're curious who is making these. I think it may actually be Global Foundries because their 20 nanometer process is still pretty new. But they don't have nearly the demand for that as TSMC does. I mean, TSMC is serving NVIDIA, AMD in graphics, AMD in the original Kabini, a ton of other companies that are all using 28 nanometer, both for ARM products and other products. So it would kind of lead us to expect that Global Foundries would be producing this, and they did a lot of engineering time with AMD to make sure that their product was running as efficiently as possible on this process. Now, with any chip design, you've got the initial design going on. You've got the guys like at AMD, NVIDIA, whatever. They're laying out the chip. They're doing simulations on it. And then they tape out the product and send that off to the guys to make masks. And those masks then go to pure play foundries like TSMC not SMC, but UMC, Global Foundries. And then those engineers get those masks and the technology, and they start running some simulations, they start running test wafers, and they start picking out, okay, what can we improve upon in either the middle layer or the basic design to improve not only their bins and speeds, but how can we have a positive effect on overall TDP. Now, if these engineers at TSMC are just slammed because they've got so much work to do for all these other clients, it kind of makes sense that, Global Foundries would be able to dedicate more engineering time to fewer customers to more adequately optimize their chips for Global Foundries process. But that's speculation, and it's kind of big speculation, and we won't hear anything here for a couple of weeks because apparently AMD is in their quiet period. But anyway, Beema,
well, I mean, you look,
Mullins,
TSMC is booked till Q3 2014 right now because they've had some huge mobile wins and mobile handset, not Beema Mullins level. So I don't know. It seems like a pretty believable rumor.
It could be, but anyway, overall, you can read the article. I go into some greater detail there, which is hard to believe by how much I've talked and how dry my throat is from all that talking. May need a break, but anyway, it's a bigger jump than we expected. They've got SDPs of around 2.5 watts for tablets, and that's a significant upgrade for AMD, especially in the tablet space, where they have not been exceptionally competitive with the ARM guys and Intel with Bay Trail, though Intel still hasn't sold a tremendous amount of Bay Trail due to many other factors, which we actually kind of will go into with some news. But anyway, this is it looks like it's a good product. It looks like it's going to be pretty competitive with most of the other parts out there. It could give them a larger percent of market share in tablets and low cost notebooks, low power stuff, especially having a 15-watt TDP at the high end and still having performance of what our 25-watt AM1 parts have. In fact, maybe even a little bit more. So anybody else have any interest or comments on Mullins and Beema?
Well, I like the fact that they've integrated the little ARM processor in there for security, with what they're calling Trust Zone. Because, I mean, we heard about that idea of putting a Cortex A5 or something in the chip to handle security for, it's been, 2 generations now?
Yeah, we heard about
really
this a while back. Yeah.
And they finally got it.
They finally do. And there's some interesting controversy here because in the discussion that we had with AMD, we asked them, hey, is this Cortex A5 in Kabini? And they're like, no, it's not. It's like, really? It's not in there. No, it's not. And then I go and read like Anand or somebody else is like, yeah, this part was actually implemented in Kabini but was never activated. It's like, why can't you people tell us the truth? But anyway, Trust Zone is it's well represented around the industry because this has been implemented in pretty much every Cortex processor for quite a while, and AMD ARM is really working on getting Trust Zone up. And it really didn't make any sense for AMD to try to do their own implementation when Intel was doing their own, ARM was doing their own, and ARM is willing to license this stuff. So, of course, AMD said, hey, let's not fracture the market anymore. Let's not have to put all these resources into our own hardware security design. Let's just license ARM and give them a little bit more momentum so that perhaps that's going to be the standard going forward. So, yeah, that's a good point to bring up, Jeremy.
Oh, why, thank you, Josh.
Anyhow, moving along, Noctua. Is that how you pronounce that? Noctua. Noctua. NHU14S CPU cooler.
It's not Japanese. It's German or Austrian or
Austrian.
something.
Come on.
Oh, so not tonight.
What?
No.
I missed something. Yes, Noctua, or Noctua, as Josh likes to call it. The Noctua, basically, we have a review of the Noctua NH-U14S. This is a really big heatsink, really big. You can, from the pictures itself, it's only a now. It's only a single tower heatsink. It's not a dual tower, but basically with the U series, the 14S and the 12S, and we have a 12S coming up soon. What they did was they wanted to make a heatsink or an air cooler that was high performance but maintained compatibility with motherboards. So it could basically fit on most configurations. It seemed to fit pretty good. I mean, it has the same quality design and construction as we've come to expect from Noctua. It's got nickel plating. It's all copper. It's got aluminum fins. The fan included is actually a 150 millimeter fan, which is nice, and it also has anti-vibration pads on the fan to minimize noise. Yeah, it's a really nice. It was a really nice unit. The one thing with it was that it is a very tight fit. If you can scroll down to the bottom, the bottom picture, the very bottom picture on page 2 of the review, it actually you can actually see where the actual heat pipes are kind of close in to the sides of the VRM heat sinks around the CPU socket. That was really the only iffy thing I had with this cooler. Otherwise, this is a really well-constructed cooler. As far as performance goes, this was among. I mean, it wasn't a top performer, but it was pretty close. I mean, it was within a few degrees of the top performers. And the really nice thing, even in dual fan mode, its noise was minimal. I mean, it was I measuring it from an app that I use on my Galaxy S3. It rated 40 dB under full load with dual fans. If you cut it down to single fan mode, which only increased temperatures by a degree or two at most, it was 34 dB, which is a significant drop from 40. With the LNA adapter, which basically drops the fan RPM from 1500 to 1200, it was 31 RPM. I mean, in my opinion, you really wouldn't even need to use the LNA adapter in this case. I mean, if you're very, very noise sensitive, then maybe, but you can't. I couldn't hear the fans, even in dual fan. I couldn't hear the fans over the case fans where the graphics card one is running. So this was a very high performance, very quiet cooler. It was a very nice cooler. We gave it a silver award, because we gave it a silver award just because the fit, was kind of odd. And I mean, price-wise, for Noctua coolers, you pay a premium for these Noctua coolers. This cooler itself is about $74. So somewhere between $70 and $75, depending on where you go. But
I've seen that somewhere. That's the thing that sits on the back of the hovercraft, isn't it?
yes, it is.
I think somebody actually did origami with the heat pipes in the bottom.
Yeah.
It looks like a beautiful swan. No?
It's aesthetic and a tight fit. But if they'd gone for dual tower, it just would have been too big.
Yeah, I'm out.
It.
And brown.
But so I mean, it was decent. It was decent cooler, and we will be having the U12S, which is the 120 millimeter version of this, out in the next month or two. Well, hopefully sooner than 2 months, but it'll be out soon. So just look for that.
How many pipes is that going to have? Anyhow.
Not as many as this one.
I was talking to Ken earlier about holding two really large things in his hands. And he confirmed that, yes, that they were AMD products. So, Ken, do you want to talk about this? Or does Jeremy? Or do I? Really? Who's up?
Sorry. I don't have large things in my hands. I just have one small thing in my hands.
Yet another cat.
I did. You can't
It's
resist
much
that.
smaller than the previous model.
Yes, the old one grew up, so I needed a small one again. So, yeah, got a small one.
There's therapy for that kind of behavior.
Just whatever you
Alan.
do, don't hook 2 power supplies up to it. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. How do you do the cat beard thing? What are you supposed to do here? I don't know. But the head's too small to do cat beard.
Poor kitten.
It's it's a kitten. He's
Right.
chilling.
With head stabilization.
Yeah.
Yes, he has automatic head stabilization. It's the new model.
So anyway,
See?
let's talk about what Ryan tested and did not share with anyone else, except of course the readers, but they don't count. Anyway.
Drool worthy. Really drool worthy.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about this, Jeremy, or
Eh. Well, I can start it out as long as somebody wants to jump in, because there are 2 really big,
Jump
heavy
in.
products.
There's 2 big things you can hold in your hands?
Oh, well, you certainly can.
I share nicely.
Because I look at those gorgeous, gorgeous pair of red.
Huge tracks of
Yeah.
heat sink.
It's the $3,000 graphics subsystem. He got to get 2 295 X2s with the integral water cooling, as you can see there, and sort of strap them into a nice rack. And he tried hooking 1 power supply up to it, but it just wasn't man enough, so he had to splice in a second PSU to turn these things on. But once he did, what they put out was unbelievable. Like, some of the scaling,
Ryan knows this.
it's
for a
just
fact
going to
because
peel your
he's been
eyes
to Vegas.
right back. Well done.
Well done.
But if you move on to Battlefield 4, you will see an example of what we've always thought scaling should be, which is, a good 80% or so gain in performance and a significant tightening of the frame times. Apart from the very end, the percentile perhaps dipped a little bit. It wasn't quite as solid as just the 1. But if anyone wants to complain about AMD's support for CrossFire and fixing frame rating, I present to you the non-DX9 games that we tested, such as Bioshock 4, Bioshock Infinite, not quite the gains that we saw, and in some cases, a little bit of a jagged performance. It was a little bit rough, but yeah, it was still enjoyable. Other things like Crysis, it can play Crysis. It can play Crysis at 4K at an average of almost 60 frames a second, and a pretty solid 60 frames a second, which is more than a little bit impressive. I was disappointed that we couldn't break 200 frames per second in Skyrim. We came close, came so very, very close. But as you might expect, this is a very much older version of DirectX that it's based off of. It's 9, which is what it said to the scaling. Essentially, we saw almost no scaling whatsoever on Skyrim. Then again, since you are floating up around 100 and some frames per second, it's perhaps not the biggest problem of them all. And yes, the card did barf all over our graph once again. And I will point out that that's the single, not the SLI, that barfed. But if you really want to see an impressive number, you can bounce right past the frame testing, which was just unbelievable, and go to the power consumption. This is a system that under full load pulls over 1,200 watts from the wall. 1,261 to be completely accurate, which, as you can see, is the graph for that is much more excited than it was for any other video card. It really extended it out there. Sound levels.
I'm kind of curious, Jeremy.
Yeah?
How hot did the power cable get in between the power supply and the kilowatt?
I'm surprised the
course.
kilowatt didn't burst into flames. To be honest.
The worst part is he was running it through this. He had both power supplies hooked up to this cheap ass power strip that I'm just
Did
expecting
it
to
keep
fail any
resetting?
minute. No,
Are
actually,
there burn marks on it?
I was expecting it just to melt, but it made it through.
Ryan,
one thing that
quality
didn't trip a
is
breaker.
never enough.
Like, what are your? Do you guys have the 20 amp breaker or 20 amp outlets at the office with the little? Is it the looks like a regular equal sign, but it has the little tick sticking off the side of one of the prongs?
You know what? I don't know if we upgraded the when we changed everything over. I don't know if we upgraded the circuits or not.
No, it was
'Cause
like a
if you don't,
1250 and an
you were
850. I bet you
riding-
that a good 220 vac would handle that at 15 amp.
A 220 would, sure, but this is 120.
America.
Sorry, a 120.
This is
like a
America.
proper 120, not like an almost 115. Like a
I don't know.
proper single run.
15 amps. You're yeah. I'm pretty
Might.
sure that thing was close to 15 amps.
Well, we can do amazing things with 15 amps, as Lee proved in his review that we might mention a little bit later on.
Might
No.
mention that.
But the other thing is that noise
results
levels
are
amazed
interesting.
me.
Oh, what?
Before I let Josh jump into the innuendo, noise levels went up a total of 3 decibels when they tossed in that second card and maintained relatively reasonable temperatures. So it's not going to be like some other Hawaii cards where if you put 2 of them together, you should probably have a fire
They make
extinguisher handy.
stormy weather, right? 2 together make stormy weather.
Well,
So the
Well,
cards
certainly
might have
not screaming.
maintained the coolers might have maintained good temperatures in the cards. I will point out that all of that wattage, however, is going into your room, wherever the system was.
It would have been really nice for these parts to be released like 3 months ago when it was like
Yeah.
-10 here because they put off a shit ton of heat.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It
Yeah,
felt like a
it's-
space heater.
It is. That is a space heater.
Yeah.
Space heaters are rated like 1,500 watts.
oh yeah.
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 No, hook up tubing to the exhaust and get yourself a nice little hot tub going. Powered by AMD.
Water and PCBs with electrical components. It's a good idea. Let's do it. I mean, it is water cooled anyway, so go from there. Jeremy, you had talked about some large, and perhaps so large that you're compensating for something with your power supply because that's common. Hey, you know what?
Some
I'm only
things just
pulling.
make you feel inadequate.
Yeah, I'm pulling 150 watts, but you know what? I need 10 times that because I feel inadequate with my high efficiency stuff.
Oh, you only think you're high efficiency.
Not really. Anyway,
This thing got the 80 plus titanium award, which is something until I read these review I had never heard of.
you had heard about this before, unless you were not paying attention because Ryan has talked about titanium.
That's
In-
correct.
Anyway, move along.
And then we went on to rings, and it just got weird. But yeah, the brand new Corsair AX1500i digital ATX 1500 watt power supply was just recently reviewed by our good friend Lee. This thing, and as I had alluded to before, if you actually, partly because of the fact that it is so ridiculously efficient, provide it with a proper 120 voltage alternating current with 15 amp, it will run at that full 1500. If you've got a double tap, if your electrics aren't quite as good, so it's dipping around about 115, 110, it will downgrade itself to 1300, which is still a lot of power supply. This thing is rather impressive. It can deliver 125 amps on its single 12 amp rail, which 12 volt rail, which is probably why it's got the better part of a dozen PCI Express 6+2 connectors.
That is arc welding. That is definitely arc welding.
Absolutely is. It's obscene.
So we know Alan's first video when he gets here because we just got one of those in. So
Yes, we're going to arc weld with it.
absolutely.
Yep.
I can't wait. With
It is
thermite.
completely modular, which is very nice in the high-end power supplies, and there is no question this is a high-end power supply. It will arrive someday to be able to power 295Xs. Unfortunately, it did not arrive in time to do so. because it would have been nice to see them coming off of just a single one. So overall, absolutely brilliant until it hits about 450 watts or so. It doesn't even bother turning its fan on. It just doesn't care. It's got ridiculously clean power because they've introduced a digital signal processor into the actual PSU. So it's reading the power coming in and deciding how best to modulate it to put out a perfect voltage regulation. It's less than plus minus 1% on the 12 volt rail at that full 125 amp, I might add. It's got a 7-year warranty on it, so Corsair has no issues worrying about the quality of it. And it also has Corsair Link. If you're running Windows XP, you won't care because it doesn't actually support it on Windows XP. But for everyone else, you've got a good integrated overall view of what your system is doing in real time. If you've got a lot of Corsair parts in it, you'll get more information, but it is still quite capable of reading a lot of the information off of various parts and telling you CPU fan speed, GPU fan speed, and a bunch of just other really nice features, which of course all adds up to a rather impressive price. MSRP is, I believe, sitting about $550, which, if you're going to buy $3,000 worth of graphics cards, is probably not going to scare you off. Overall, this is probably one of the more impressive PSUs I have ever seen, and since Lee gave it an editor's choice, I got to tell you, it's probably one of the most impressive he's ever seen.
Nice. That's nice. Let me get my color back.
Oh, sorry, it is $450, not $550. My apologies.
$450?
$450.
What do you get for $450?
About 1,500 watt.
About everything, really. So, anyhow, that is our those are all the reviews that we have gone over this past week. Obviously, there was a significant amount of them because we're like at the hour spot. Because Maury and Alan decided to do something else and caused everybody to be late. So let's get into news. Do you like news, Jeremy? Do you like news? Is news good?
It's a thing that seems to constantly happen, whether we want it to or not.
And are we going to
it's
talk
occasionally
about
interesting.
We're going to talk about any SSD stuff, or are we skipping that?
Well, I tried to convince Al to talk about it, and he just sort of went mum. He flipped his thing up.
You know what?
Okay,
He's out of luck then because we don't have time. Jeremy, NVIDIA announces Watch Dogs bundle with GeForce GPUs. So what's so neat about Watch Dogs?
That's probably not a question you want to ask me because I've watched some of the videos and I'm still not quite sure. On the other hand, it is claiming to be a very interesting open sandbox game where you're a hacker and everyone's a hacker, and it will take you between online play and single player play seamlessly. So you can either play by yourself, or if you are feeling lonely or just, sick of that magic wand, you can all of a sudden join up with some friends and play. But the nice thing is that there are going to be a free copy of it sold with every GTX 780 Ti, 780, 770, or 760. And going down to the 760, it all of a sudden becomes a fair value because it's not a terribly expensive video card, and this is a definitely full price game. So hey, any free games are a good game.
Way to go, NVIDIA, and why would anyone ever get tired of the magic wand? Why?
Because you can share them with your friends.
You want that to come with your video card?
You can
Jeff?
hack your friend's magic wand.
Do you know how many video cards they would actually sell to a certain audience? Free
Come on, they
magic
sold
wand.
that chair that vibrated.
Yeah. Anyway, the enter to the Tegra K1 CUDA Vision Challenge. Win a Jetson TK1. Now, the K1 is, it's the 192 graphics core ARM-based processor, correct? SoC, Jeremy?
Aye.
Yeah.
That makes the world's first mobile supercomputer, even.
Supposedly. Anyway, that's a big thing to say and not back up. But anyway.
2 gigs of RAM and 16 gigs of storage, that's a supercomputer, right?
It is. Back in 1988.
Well, compared to 1959, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It doesn't take up a city block.
But anyhow, apparently you can win this. What do you need to do to win this part from NVIDIA and PC perspective?
Well, you have to do something useful, unfortunately. You are going to have to figure out a way to use this brand new Tegra K1 or sort of, be it a professional application, a way to build something you'd use personally, a new point of sale system, however it is, you sort of enter the Vision Challenge. Give them an embedded application idea. It's a little more than, you could make a slot machine out of it. But there are some interesting prizes because if you're into that sort of development thing, winning a Jetson TK1 is kind of neat because it's the first way you're going to get your hands on one. So it's pretty much it's a pretty short description. You just head on over to that website, go read through the rules, and sort of think, what would be a great use for what is a fairly powerful embedded system. It's a full SoC. There are things you could do with it because it's tiny like Al's kitten, except you can actually teach it to do things.
Unlike Al's kitten, which will just cough up hairballs and scratch furniture. And beg for food. Don't forget beg for food. Why is Alan in the corner? Why?
That's Alan
kicked.
begging for food.
I got the chair kicked back because
He's
there's
playing with his pussy.
something sleeping on my arm.
God damn it.
God.
He's got a Hitachi magic wand on his cat.
What? Excuse me?
You're
Find
the
a little
one
bit of
laying
tape,
back
you might
with
get some
the
hair removal.
Anyway, have we gone far enough? Yes. Is Ryan obviously so proud, so happy that he missed this podcast?
Oh, come on. He's got an arm up
Obviously.
his... Yeah.
He's going to promote this to the moon. Look what happens when I'm away.
Yeah. I mean, he got kittens. Should definitely promote it.
Yeah.
That's a very excited kitten.
That is one
Very-
tired-looking cat.
It's a very sleepy kitten.
Obviously, that cat had enough magic
Kittens
wand for
going to
one
sleep.
night.
With the head falling over on the PC Perspective podcast. No, Ken, look at that. There you go.
Oh,
Kitten's going to sleep.
kitty. Yeah, the kitty had too much.
Yep.
Awesome. And now no one's going to want to pay attention to us. They're just going to stare at the kitten.
Stare at the cat. And
Yeah,
who
I
doesn't
thought every
want to
time they
stare at
put
the
a cat on a
Speaking of the
podcast,
cat,
it
NVIDIA
increases the
test
viewer
model Shield.
value quite a bit.
Let's move along. With Tegra K1 on AnTuTu. I obviously did not read this one. AnTuTu is a benchmark program, correct? For Android?
Yes. And they used it to benchmark the NVIDIA GeForce.
GeForce.
Defrost.
GeForce rocks. So tell us about it, Jeremy, and not just whisper.
I'll whisper sweet nothings into Al's pussy.
God, stop
it's it's sort of the successor to Shield, or it may be, if this all isn't just rumors, which, considering it's come from one benchmark posted onto the internets, I guess it can't be a lie because it's on the internets, right? So Shield 2 may be coming out in E3 in June. There is a chance this is what it's going to be powered by. So the NVIDIA GeForce Kepler based, 4 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of local storage. It'll do 1440 by 810 pixels. This is a Shield after all, so it's got an integral display in it, and it's running Android 4.42. So if it's true, this will be interesting. The inclusion of a camera means you can probably bundle in some of NVIDIA's latest fun things, where you can share your frustrations or brag to your friends live while you're playing. Long story short, we'll see if this is true or not, probably sometime in June.
Are they going to give the same number of these away as they have the first gen?
You get a shield, and you get a shield. Also, 4 gigs of RAM is a lot.
That's
Yes, fair enough.
That's 64-bit, isn't it?
true. I hope so.
Yeah, it's got to be. Well,
I would hope so.
Otherwise, it'll be 3.5.
I'm not a huge expert on Android, but I think 4 does do 64-bit, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, most 32-bit is max at 2 gig in Android
Yep.
because of different things.
Wait a minute. I thought that it depends on. I thought a lot of the chips.
I mean,
are
video might steal some of that.
32-bit on Android. I thought they weren't coming out with the 64-bit until 2015.
Yeah, you're probably right.
The current generation, because Apple's got 64-bit, but I thought Android didn't have it yet.
Well, it can do 2 gigs
Honestly, I'm not
per.
sure.
It's 2 gig per like thread, right?
Well, it's got 4 cores.
Well, it
I'm assuming
depends on
4
if
threads.
if it's like the x86 stuff. It's limited to
The initial
3.5 addressable
K1
space.
is a Cortex A15, which is still 32-bit. They did announce a Denver 64-bit that was based on a dual-core Denver with that same graphics functionality. But
I don't think
know
the
when
K1's going to be that, though.
I don't know when that's going to come out. So it's going to be the 32-bit A15 based
So,
product.
but the other
with
thing
K1.
is you throw a gig of that RAM towards the GPU, and all of a sudden it becomes a moot point.
They could also do something funky with the core addressing if they actually tied the memory to a specific core and didn't do memory sharing directly. If they did some wizardry like that, they may be able to get over that limit too.
Yeah,
FUD and rumors, what can you say?
not a whole lot. And this is the wrong place to get rumors. Unless you got a Hitachi Magic Wand. It's all kinds of rumors. Anyway, another GPU driver showdown, AMD versus NVIDIA in Linux. My name is Linus Pauling, and I pronounce it Linux.
Linux.
Talk to me, Jeremy,
quickly run it
because you're
down.
the only person who read this.
Yes,
I mean,
well, it's
Ben,
also
Ben
why I kinda
Stone
posted it.
probably read it.
I
Jordan Twang probably read it. But you're the only person here.
No, Van would have read it too.
Well, yeah, I'm saying Van and Jordan, but
Yeah, okay.
you are the only person in this small,
And the
tight
other-
group.
The other heavy metal hardcore IT guy. Now,
Yes.
just to quickly run through it, as it stands right now, you are much better off going NVIDIA. NVIDIA's got a historically better support of Linux or Linux or Ubuntu, which is what they actually tested it with, than AMD has, although AMD, you've got to admit, is getting a lot better. But unfortunately, long story short is if you pick up a R9 290, you're going to get the same performance from a 770. And one of these two cards is much cheaper than the other. So long story short, I mean, AMD's got a bit of time to go on this, but if you're actually gaming, go for the NVIDIA at this moment. If you're benchmarking, actually go for AMD. They've actually seen some really good increases. We shall see how this turns out, because the best thing about this, I think, is AMD has caved on the open source drivers. They've actually been putting a lot more support in Linux, and this is even more pressure to say, hey, you know what, guys? We've got some serious competition for Windows coming out for gaming, in the next couple of months to a year. Get off your arses, start doing some better driver support, and who knows, you may even end up at the top of the heap like you are right now on Windows machines.
Yeah, and also consider that AMD is going to be pushing into the Android area very soon with their own ARM-based devices, and so they need to have some good software support for open source and Linux. But you didn't hear that from me. So, Jeremy, what did you just open up?
Why, this one would be Hop Circle IPA.
God, what is it with you and IPAs? Get something
Kinda like 'em.
malty, creamy for a change, instead of just
Bitter.
That was
bitter and.
previous. That was a Skookum Brown Pale Ale.
Oh, okay, it's not so bad. You know what? We're done with news, and in fact, it's 9:29 my time, which is well past my bedtime, and hopefully my children have gone to bed as well, which I'm not counting on because my wife is apparently up in bed sick, and I've had to do everything today. Everything, including unboxing the Hitachi Magic Wand, which you'd think that anyway. Let's move with our hardware software picks of the week, and we stress hardware, And oddly enough, nobody has chosen the magic wand this week. So, Jeremy, tell us what you have.
What is
Kinda
that?
cute.
Doesn't look like a magic wand.
That is a USB charger.
Huh.
This tiny little keychain. It's from Nomad. They sent me out this, and they sent me out something that is a much odder form factor. It fits directly in your wallet. There's your USB plug. There's your micro USB. They also come in iPhone versions. And this one, I would totally recommend if they had built a small battery in there for a good emergency 5 to 10 minute charge when you find yourself totally and completely screwed without a phone that's working. The little key-sized guy I do really like because it's really easy to carry around. Its directionality is a little messed up because for me, when I plug it into my BlackBerry, and yeah, it does surprisingly enough support BlackBerry as well, the screen is actually face down because it's the half USB interface. It's not a full plug. You just slide it underneath to get the golden fingers to connect. Overall, I kind of like the things until I realized that they're about $30. For $30, they do seem to be a little bit expensive, honestly. Then again, I have never seen a USB cable this tiny and cute before. So if you're doing a corporate event and you want some fun people, you want something that fun to give people, I would highly recommend picking some of these up, seeing if you can get your company name silk screened on them. Otherwise, they're doing a lot. This originally started from a Kickstarter about a year back, and I have a feeling that once volume goes up, prices are going to drop. Keep your eye out on these guys because, I've really not seen much in the way of competition in tiny, tiny little USB devices.
Plus, there's a Big Lebowski GIF on their website, so
It's also true. There is.
You just got to buy it now.
Gots to. Anyway, moving on to myself. I like Instant Tan. Instant Tan is good. Go buy it. Anyway, no. You know what? This week has been kind of interesting for me. I've been doing a network migration. And domain control servers have typically been expensive in the past. And now they are moving down in price. In fact, it is at white box pricing levels for an entire stinking server. So I've been working with this for the past week. It's an HP DL360 G8. It's only like 900 and some odd bucks. How much is it? Let's see how much. $954. Now, it doesn't come out with any drives, which you got to buy, but drives are cheap. But, if you're looking to set up a domain for an enterprise class solution, then this is a nice unit. It's got ILO 4 drives. It's SAS 6.
Yeah.
Everything you need in there. You can slap a second processor in there if you want. Otherwise, it's a single Intel Xeon 1.8 gigahertz, 4-core, 8-thread product that, it's very quiet because in my past, when I've bought 1U products, when you plug them in and turn it off, it sounds like a tornado because those 40 millimeter, or are they 20 millimeter fans? They're small. 20 millimeter fans.
They got to be 40.
Okay,
it's
40,
1U,
fine.
right?
Yeah. They're loud. Really loud. And so, these things being quiet, highly configurable, highly manageable, pretty extensible for less than $1,000 in kind of bare bones state. That's nice because HP makes some pretty good servers. They have a lot of nice extras in there. But moving along, Alan, tell us what you have.
My shredder broke. Because if you're getting ready to move across country and you decide you want to shred a few thousand sheets of paper, tends to break your shredder. So I had to get another one, right? because I had more stuff to shred. So I'm looking around and researching these things, and I figured I might as well upgrade and get the kind of shredders that make like the really, really tiny squares, right? And I also wanted to be able to shred CDs and stuff because I've got some old CDs that I don't necessarily want people reading if I want to get rid of them. So I'm looking around
like
and
Gone with the Wind or Heidi in the Mountains.
Exactly. So I'm looking around and there was like the best. There was a good microcut one I could see. It's called microcut. Is the new like it's like class 4 or whatever. Really tiny little kibbles and bits of shredded paper. So there was one from Fellows. It was like a couple $100, and it did CDs too. But the trick was that the CDs was actually like a 1/4-inch strip shredder. So it would just, whatever you put in like credit cards, which you were supposed to put in that same slot as the CDs, it would only cut them in 1/4-inch strips. So a credit card would only give you like 15 strips, right? So you put a credit card through there, someone could still just take the credit card and just like piece it back together within a couple of minutes and get your credit card number and your security code. Which
That's a lot of effort for a very small credit limit.
no. So I mean, even if you put it in, like if you put it in a straight, potentially you could get one strip that had the entire number just on the one strip, right? So I'm like, well, there's got to be a better way. Somebody's got to make a microcut shredder that is just one slot on the shredder where everything goes through the microcut thing. And sure enough, there's a $100 shredder on Amazon, and it's the Amazon brand. So it's just this Amazon Basics 12-sheet microcut shredder, right? So just from the specs, that's like just a really generic kind of shredder, but the bin on it is like huge. It's like easily twice as large as the shredder I had before. I think you could probably put a whole ream worth of paper in the thing through it, and probably that would fill up the bin, is what it would take. And you throw a DVD in there, or you throw a credit card in there, and it all goes through the same mechanism. So now the DVD doesn't sound happy when it goes through there, because it does get turned into, like, one DVD turns into easily a couple hundred pieces. So good luck on even reading what was written on the DVD. Like, literally, like, with Sharpie, good luck on even reading that. Not even the data that was on the DVD in the first place. So, yeah. Looks good. Worked pretty good. We've already probably put 1,000 sheets of paper through this one.
Is it Enron approved?
I guess. I don't know. What's that movie where, what is it?
I don't know, it's just
Why-
Family
is it-
Guy references coming to me when you think paper shredder.
Argo, when
pencil
like
sharpeners.
they were storming the embassy and they were trying to shred everything.
Yeah, there's plenty of those scenes in movies where they're just like shredding
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. I'd probably want to have one of these if I was in that situation.
Nixon, maybe.
I think
I
I'd
don't
want to have a wood chipper, but that's just me.
Wood chipper.
Yeah, Fargo.
He's not talking about disposing of bodies. He's talking about disposing of paper.
Okay. No.
Are you
Yeah.
sure about that, Maury?
Well, if he's got that little shredder won't dispose of bodies.
Maybe a
No,
small box.
well,
You know,
He's
you haven't
retired. He
tried
has
hard
time.
enough.
I don't
Anyhow. Maury, tell us what you got when 1/2 inch doesn't cut it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know what you're saying. All right, so this is again my exploits in the Get Around It for QuakeCon. I follow the Modzu because they have a lot of cool ideas, and the MN PC guys who also bleed over to Modzu put out this video on using 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch outer diameter acrylic tubing and actually being able to self tap it with a G1/4 inch threading on it, so you could actually thread your barbs into the tubing itself. I got it from McMaster, who's an online supplier, and you can kind of see it here. Well, let's see if I can get a good picture. This thing's like 6 foot long, so it's kind of hard
As long
to.
as you haven't self-tapped it yet.
But yeah, so you can see it. It's got a 1/4 inch wall tubing, and you can actually tap it. I had bought a tapper with it too, but it's actually G1/4 inch is 1/2 inch inner diameter, so you can use regular G1/4 inch barbs with it, and it works just like any other acrylic tubing. You can bend it with heat, and from what I've heard online, I haven't actually tried it yet, but it actually gives the fluid, if you use colored fluid in it, it gives it a richer the thicker walls give the fluid a richer texture and look to it. So,
Creamier?
I mean, it is a little
Does it
big,
make it
but
creamier?
Josh, don't go there, man.
Yes,
Don't go
Josh,
there.
I think he's upstaging us both.
Right. The
But,
thicker
yeah,
tube gives
With the barbs, it can self-tap.
Yeah,
so
he's going there.
Yep.
yep, that's neat.
Anyway.
And the nice thing too is it's only it's $10 for 6 foot. I think it's $10 per 6 foot section, so it's not bad. I mean, they get you a bit on shipping, but
My pick of the week is a shipping tube that 6-foot acrylic tubing came in.
yeah,
And as
Stop
long as
bragging,
it's not
Ken.
labeled Hitachi on the outside.
Yeah. That's because Ken wants more girth in his
what we
tube.
could probably put one of those Tegra JK1 things in there and make it into an NVIDIA magic wand for you, Ken.
God, just stop. Stop. You know what? We have come to the end of our patience and yours, and so it's time to close out this podcast. I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Alan Malventano.
And I'm Maury Tattleman.
You know, you
What's
can
up,
catch us
Dapper?
on PCPer.com/podcast. Again, Ryan, Twitter.com/Ryan Shroud, Twitter.com/PCPer. And
games with
you
us on
can
Saturday.
Google the rest of us. Google us as hard and as fast as you can. And think happy thoughts. So good night.